Good Monday morning. Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is Jeremy coming at you once again with Redtired podcast, and I'm here with the man who finally got off of his deathbed, Jacob Valdez. Good morning, Jacob.
For the second time, right?
For the second time, yeah. Apparently, your immune system might need a little bit of work. You might think about going and hitting that gym, hit that sauna. What's going on there, buddy?
Yeah, I need to go. But the great thing is I'm glad my wife and son weren't here to either pass it on or whatever kind of and then that rotation starts all over again. They'll get a different strand, and then I get a different one. This is a never-ending cycle of having a family. You know this. You have two girls, so.
Well, yeah, that's true. But my immune system is cast iron, so when I get sick, it's it's so rare, and usually at this time of the year for us, it's all allergies, and I'm about the only one that really doesn't have any allergies or any reactions or anything like that when the weather changes, but. My kids must have got my wife's immune system when it comes to all that stuff because they're just allergic to everything. The sun sets too early. They're coughing about it.
Work.
I don't want it. I don't want it.
No, I'm glad to be back, dude. It's been a while. One thing I would like to talk about, though, for today's episode is two things. Procrastination, and hand in hand with that is time management,
which is a really ironic subject since you've been gone for so long.
Yeah.
Just gonna throw that out there.
It wasn't because I didn't have time for it. It was because I did have time for it, and I looked at my cold medicine and took that and went back to bed.
Yeah, probably. It's certainly. I'm sure it was an effective use of your time to a degree. But it was awful lonely over here, and I had to call up on Bill a couple of times to fill in the gap.
Yeah, so sorry about that. No,
yeah. You're apologizing to listeners for having to hear Bill? That's mean.
No, but I'm glad I'm back. But before we go anywhere, do we have any current events to cover down before we start?
Well, the impeachment trials are underway, and so far, everything that I've been able to ascertain, it's been nothing more than a big, complete waste of time. Adam Schiff.
I was hoping to sleep through the whole thing.
Adam Schiff is a jackass, by the way. He's he looks like a deer in headlights when you watch these things. And by the way, I don't recommend that you actually watch these because it's all been well. We have a witness who
is it circus? Is a circus on TV?
Well, it is a circus, but Adam Schiff is bringing forth witnesses who heard somebody say something, who said something about the meeting, about the phone call.
So it's kind of like that one game we played in school when you whisper in one's ear, and then by the time it reaches through like 30 people, it changed.
Basically, yes. So imagine, if you will, let's go back to high school, actually, because high school was kind of a train wreck.
The rumor mill right there.
Yeah, it was a train wreck, right? So let's go back to the train wreck.
I heard Jacob slipped on a banana peel. No, I heard he got blown up.
Yeah, and that's about what we're working with right now. Somebody in the lunchroom slipped on a banana peel and they fell and they busted their ass, and it's like, oh, it was funny. Everybody laughed, no big deal. He got back up. He's fine. Well, by the end of the day, apparently he got into a fight. 3 ninjas jumped out from behind the garbage cans and attacked him. One of them had a sword. Another one stabbed him in the throat with a sai. And then before you know it, next week it was the Ninja Turtles that jumped out, and there was 4 of them.
I was about to say that.
That's what we're working with at the congressional level right now. I've gone through the declassified document briefly just this morning, and I'm still looking for any kind of evidence that there's any kind of issue, any kind of problem at all. At this point, the Democrats I think they're punting, because I think it's a Hail Mary at this point, because consider 2020, they have nobody. And Hillary is kind of coming out of the woodwork, and she's saying, well, there's so many people that are just begging me to run again. And I'm like, yeah, there are probably Republicans who are begging you to run again. By all means, go ahead. do it. It'll be a show.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary is irrelevant. In fact, she's been in the media a lot here lately. She's been going on talk shows and she's bringing Chelsea along with her. What do you think that means?
I don't know.
I know what it means. She's grooming her daughter for politics. She's grooming her daughter by getting her in the spotlight. And I hate to say it this way. I know a lot of people who are very foolish and are going to think, well, she's a Clinton, so let's vote for her. In fact, I'm related to a couple of people who will vote for her just because she's a Clinton. She has no real world experience whatsoever other than the fact that her mommy and daddy have been in politics. But anyway, Chelsea Clinton, just stay out of politics. You're a moron. You're just like your parents, morons. And if Hillary decides to throw her hat in the ring again, and I mean, dude, go ahead. Just please do it. Bernie Sanders isn't going to get the nomination. His health is in question. Joe Biden,
his teeth are in question.
Yeah, his teeth are in question. There's another one. But then you have to take into consideration, well, if Trump is under investigation for any kind of dealings or any kind of quid pro quo for Ukraine, then likewise, we have to turn this around and look at the Bidens as well. Otherwise, we have a very, very big problem in the legal system. The Democrats can't only prosecute Republicans, right? Or can they?
Nope, that's not the way it works. You gotta do everybody.
Yep, that's right. Legally, you're supposed to do everybody. So there should be, in my estimation, if Trump is actually impeached and they actually hold hearings on this, then they need to go back and they need to go ahead and prosecute the Bidens as well, because there's a huge conflict of interest there. And there's no doubt about it. The evidence is already there. When you look at the ties with Burisma and Hunter Biden, $50K a month? Are you kidding me?
Where's my money?
You don't get any money. I'm going to tell you why you don't get any money is because you're not related to a Biden and you don't have a D after your name. Sorry, that's just the way that it works. The political system does not work for you. So that's my ever so brief rundown. I'm still waiting for evidence. When you provide some evidence, by all means, if the evidence is legitimate, if it's accurate, then I'll stand right behind every one of you on the impeachment. But to date, there is zero evidence.
There you have it, folks.
Bring it on.
So basically, since I've been sick, I haven't missed much.
No, not really. Just the impeachment trial or the impeachment hearings are actually taking place, and
the circus show.
And yeah,
Ringling Brothers are back in business.
Yep, and the ringleader is Adam Schiff at this point. That's it.
All right, so let's talk about procrastination. Now, we all been in that before. Jeremy's not perfect.
Yes, I am. I don't procrastinate.
We've all procrastinated once in our life when we were younger.
You know what? You need to quit procrastinating getting a new chair.
Yeah, my squeaky chair.
I can't edit that out.
No, so to stop procrastination, we all have to really dig deep in ourselves and really identify what kind of a procrastinator you are and what we all are. So I like to cover these 6. Now, Jeremy has a special one, which I didn't think about, and he'll actually share his opinion on that one. So one procrastination type of person out there is called the dreamer. The dreamer that has big goals but doesn't really translate into a specific plan to reach that goal. And so what happens there? They procrastinate and reach that goal. They're like, well, not everything is in place, to get there. So I'm just going to wait. So that's right there, that dreamer. Now, the solution to that is turn your dreams into concrete goals and spend time on them regularly, daily, even hourly if you can, if time permits. Don't wait for the spirit, your magical excuse me, your spirit to move on and learn to harness the energy, around you, and magically you just learn how to run a Fortune 500 company. That's not how it works.
Who does that sound
Jeff
like to
Bezos.
you? Does that sound like somebody you might have encountered here within the last year? Marianne Phillips.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that her name, Phillips? I don't even
Yeah.
remember. She was so irrelevant at that. But I mean, grabbing it like auras and all that weird crap.
Yeah.
She was
So
strange.
you got to think about it. Jeff Bezos was not a dreamer. He didn't wait, and the spirits of Amazonian spirits came to him, and he was like, "Let's go." Yeah.
Yeah. No, Jeff Bezos wasn't a dreamer. He was a doer. That's why he's worth what he is. In fact, I had a conversation with a buddy about Jeff Bezos here not too long ago about, the guy's worth billions and billions of dollars, and yet he only takes a salary of about $78,000 per year. Blew his mind. He's like, wait, what? Yeah, go ahead, Google it, look it up. You can see what he takes per year as a salary because he reinvests everything
back into either his company or into the future.
That's literally the exact opposite of procrastination. That is getting well ahead of the curve.
Now, another type of procrastinator is the warrior. The worrier.
The worrier?
The one that always worries.
But not the warrior.
No.
Worrying. Worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere.
Yep. The person that always focuses on the worst case scenario and likely to talk more about the problem than actually coming up with solutions. And guess what that goes in hand? The what if guy. So now the solution to that one is, remember that don't delay on it. Don't push it to the side. Don't continuously, what if the scenario, kind of just, if you have to break it down to kind of like knock it out. I always say, like, my wife sometimes, she was always scared to ask like huge executives for, for something, is now with her business and everything. And I tell her, don't sit there and procrastinate or not ask them this question. It's like the worst thing they can do is say no.
Yeah.
Then got it. Roger that. And go on your merry way to the next person. And once you get that first no out of the way, it's gonna get easier. So you're like, okay, all right, yeah, my business might not suit yours, so let's go to the next one.
Do you ever wonder if some of these procrastinations are kind of tied to like some deeper stuff, like like the zodiac signs, something along those lines?
Yeah.
That was recently.
I'm a Capricorn.
Capricorn? I'm gonna have to go and read that. I am. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna find out what makes you tick.
Another type of procrastinator are the defiers. This reminds me of a close friend of mine. I'm not gonna say his name. Resists anything that's new, a new task or anything. They just do not like anything new. They like the old ways. And you actually find this a lot in the workplace, especially if you get the new boss. You get those defiers that don't like the new taskings that were given to them. And so guess what they do? They procrastinate and not get it done, or wait until the last minute, or wait until the boss to tell them again. Now, the solution to this, to be honest, if you're those kind of person, if you know to be honest and true to yourself, and you know that you're that type of person, you need to start taking responsibility. That is the only solution there, is take responsibility and just go with the change. Nothing's going to go in there and get rid of that new boss, that new CEO. He's not going to go anywhere. If anyone else goes, it's going to be you.
And what did you call this one?
The defiers.
Defiers. Okay. I've met a lot of people like that. I used to work a union job at the post office. Dude, everybody, it's weird because it's like you just described like 90% of the workforce. Everybody gets into this mentality, right? And it's weird how a union mentality kind of absorbs into all of the different employees, because they all kind of become defiant, every one of them. And it's it's chaotic. You know, there's a contract that they sign, and it's basically a contract between the union and between the management types, the post office in general,
Hmm.
and they both go word for word into that contract and try to break it down and see how they can make it work for them. And it creates this very defiant work environment where everybody is like, well, I'm just not going to do what I'm supposed to do, or don't tell me what to do, or don't tell me how to. It is so weird. It's so backwards from everything you've ever understood about the traditional workplace, where like
Hmm.
I have a manager and part of his job is to tell me what to do. But then when you show up to like a labor union job, I have a manager and he's the enemy. We must butt heads. We must fight. And
To the end.
so unions actually do a great job of creating procrastination through the defiance.
Yep. Now here's another type that, I know, ladies and gentlemen, y'all are going to be kind of off on this, but I'm going to explain why. The overdoers. That is another set of procrastination. Now the reason why is because you're creating extra work by not delegating tasks, and that being so neglects and for you to set priorities. That is all what I'm trying to say is the type of overdoer that does not know how to set priorities, or doesn't know how to delegate certain taskings that doesn't require you to do them all the time, and you kind of lose sight of the big picture. So this is more of the person in the workforce. So if you're a manager and you have subordinates below you, and you're given, if your boss is telling you, well, I need this done and this done and this done, but you still need to comply to the bigger picture, don't forget that you do have subordinates that you can trust to delegate some of these tasks, and so you don't overdo it yourself. And that being said, you start procrastinating on other tasks, or you kind of like, nah, I'm not worried about the big picture anymore because I have my boss gave me this task. That's not the way to do it.
Okay, that makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
it's really easy to try. You know, I don't, I can't speak for everybody, but I know I'm one of those guys that are like, if I want something done right, I'll just do it myself. And
Hmm.
that mentality doesn't really play out very well. It's not terribly conducive to a situation where I have to delegate and allow other people to take the reins. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
things that, you know, even as a parent, you have to delegate certain things for your children and let them know, like, I'm giving you a task, I'm giving you a
Hmm.
role, I'm giving you a purpose, and I'm going to trust that you're going to do it to standard. Now, granted, the difference between, say, a regular employee and a child is that you actually have to, you know, walk the child through the process the first time. Most of the times when you
Teach
have an
them. Yeah.
employee, you would think, oh, well, I have to kind of baby this person and walk them through it the first couple of times until they get it, which may be the case depending on how menial the task is. But the good majority of the time, we're working with an adult, and you have to step back and just trust that that adult is fully capable of understanding the instruction that you've given. And so if you don't delegate, and allow that person to at least screw up a couple of times, they'll never learn the process, and you'll just get stuck doing it all over again, and then leading into the catastrophe that you just described, where, hey, look at all this work I still have to do.
Mhm. No, I like the way you put it with your daughter about, especially when it comes to like the simple chores to make your life a little bit easier and so you can focus. That's most important. So the solution to this one for this overdoer kind of way of procrastinating is remember that you do not have it all. So that being said, you have to prioritize things that is most important to you. So taking out the trash is not a priority for you. So you're going to give your daughter a chore to take the trash out. So that gives you more time and more focus do to paint the bigger picture of like paying your bills on time. Can you please take the trash out while I'm on the computer paying your school or whatever? I'm just, so that's the kind of way to find the solution on this. And yes, I know some who I have employees is a little bit different. Well, why don't you teach your employee or your subordinate, how to complete the task one time? It should only take one time if you're a good leader and know how to teach that one person how to do it. And then from there, you're like, okay, I got it. Let me now concentrate on something else that needs my attention.
Yeah, there needs to be a certain level of trust in the ability of said employee or even the child, really, that
Mhm.
that you have to let them know, hey, I know you can do this, and I'm going to trust that you will do this because, I mean, in essence, that's why you're paying them in the first place, because you believe they're capable of actually carrying this stuff out.
Another great solution to this, and I just thought of, if you're in the workforce and you have a boss that just keeps getting in your work, and you know you're that type of overdoer procrastinator, it's easy to say no if you could justify it. Like, sir, I can't do that right now. Don't keep taking it, you know, especially, sir, I can't take that right now because as of right now, this is what I have, and I've already met the limit of my department, you know.
And a good way to get around that, because I've dealt with that before, especially in the
Hmm.
union sector, is I present the issue, I present the problem, speaking clearly and actually enunciating, and not throwing a fit, not getting angry, any of that. I just let the supervisor or the manager know, like, okay, well, here's the deal. I have XYZ that also needs to get accomplished, and then you're giving me one, two, three, and that needs to be accomplished. So which one is your priority? Which one would you like me to execute first? And
Hmm.
and again, it goes back to this union thing where in this particular category, the post office, they would just be like, well, you need to get both of them done, and never give you a clear answer because they know that they get in trouble for making the wrong decision. And
Hmm.
but in a good majority of workforce environments, or in small businesses or what have you, you're going to have somebody who's got a clear and accomplished goal, and they will let you know, plain and simple, oh, well, we need to have XYZ done first, and then you can go
Hmm.
ahead and move on to one, two, three.
Yeah. So this goes hand in hand to the next procrastinator, which is the perfectionist. Putting off a task for the fear of making a mistake or overly concerned with not meeting expectations. Guys, we all know you're not perfect. A good leader and a great leader should know that you're not going to complete the task perfectly because there is no such thing as perfect. And a good leader should know that your subordinates learn best by making mistakes, because from there you can point it out to them and not get angry and be like, hey, you missed this. Let me teach you how to avoid this the next time. And that's what a good leader does without getting mad. So to stop this kind of type of procrastination and telling your subordinate, like, number one, letting them know that, hey, I'm not expecting perfect work because this is my first time, you know, trusting you to do this task. And if you did not understand everything that I told you, let's learn together, you know. And so the solution is here is to set up, as a leader, set realistic goals when it comes to either if you decided to delegate something or it's a task that was given to you, and understanding that, hey, I'm not perfect here. I should not keep putting off the task because I'm in fear of making a mistake. If you had a good leader and a good manager above you, they should understand this. So that is that for that one. Now, the last one that I covered, and Jeremy has one more he wants to add in here, is called the crisis maker. And my wife is one of these people. And
Not
I'm
to call
actually,
anybody out.
yeah, no, she is. And, but she pulls it off, and it's amazing some of the stuff that she pulls off. But crisis makers are the people that enjoy the last minute adrenaline rush, likes to complete tasks right at the last minute, especially when and this is for academia. So, I don't know about, the work situation, but, if you're a student out there and you like the last minute, like, man, I have an assignment. I'm going to look on my phone. Oh my God, my homework's done in I'm doing an hour online, you know? And so they dish out that work because, what's carrying them there forward is not willing to learn, but they're drilling, so they're not really taking in what they were supposed to learn during that section. It's just they're drilling, just pushing them to kind of get the task done. And there you go. So
That was me in
let's,
college.
yeah.
Yeah, I did. I felt like I worked better under pressure, and it may not have always been the case, but for whatever reason, and of course, I was still in school. I had two little girls, or I mean, I was still in school. Of course, I was in school. I was still working full time, 40 to 50
Mhm.
hours a week easily, and then I'd have to do all the homework and the papers and the studying and all that stuff. So it was just like grind, 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 grind. But here's the thing: is a lot of people say, well, it's just not possible to go to work and go to school full time. You're full of crap.
Mhm.
It's absolutely possible. And I turned out some of the best work that I could have possibly turned out while I was under that pressure. Now, I'm not saying that it was the right thing to do, because obviously it's not conducive to a learning environment or a learning brain, if you will. But the trick is with
Mhm.
college is, if you got to write a paper about something, 9 times out of 10, if you just repeat something that the professor said, whether you agree with it or not, and you throw it in there into the paper and you just kind of write the paper like you'd write a resume. You write a
Mhm.
resume geared towards the person that you're trying to be hired by. Well, just write the paper the same way in college, geared towards the professor you're working with. And then you can actually learn the real information. And that begs another question, actually. Why in the world are we paying so much money to go to an institute where we have to kind of force our our own perspectives out in order to get good grades, and then learn the process on our own? And that's a different story for a different time. We should probably dive into that one of these
Yeah.
podcasts, because I could eat up 2 hours just on that
Mhm.
topic alone. But back to the original point. I felt like I worked best under pressure. Now, surprise, surprise, I was a straight D student in high school because I didn't do the work. I didn't care. It was high school. I was there because I was forced to be. But in college, I was a straight A student. What's the difference?
Yep. You're investing your own money into yourself.
Well, it was the Army's, it was the government's money. It was a VA that was
Mm.
paying for it, and, the GI Bill and all that stuff. But I still had an investment into the knowledge side of things.
Uh-huh.
And so I was hungry. I wanted to learn more about the topics that I was supposed to be learning on. And and I kind of gave up on the college environment. If you go back to let's see, it was a coding class that I was taking, and the professor, who was extremely obviously gay, was going into a lecture one day and somehow correlated computer coding with gay marriage, and then began giving his perspective on gay marriage and letting us know how ridiculous other people's perspectives were. And I was like, I remember sitting there going, what does this have to do with coding? Why am I paying for this? This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
And that's the current college environment that we're faced with.
Now, to avoid the crisis maker and to avoid this, I was like that too my freshman year in college. But what I did to help me, and this is going to go hand in hand to how to stop procrastination. I do have a 6-step thing, but the one thing that helped me was finding a reward system for me to get it done early. So what I told myself is like, Jacob, if I knock this out today, I have so many hours now more to game, to play my favorite game at the time, or whatever. So I developed somewhat of a reward system to get things done early. Now that will be the only this solution that might not work for everyone. Another thing is finding multiple reasons to give yourself like motivation. Like if I do this early, I'll do your reward system could be like I get to take my son or daughter to the zoo and I'll win dad of the year or whatever. Or, but I think the reward system to me will be the best way to do it. Now, before I go into this to my solutions to procrastination, Jeremy, what's the other procrastination step that you wanted to share?
Um, well, I want to throw something in here on that reward system. That
Hmm.
does not work for everybody. It certainly doesn't work for me. I know it does for a lot of people, and a lot of people do need that kind of pat on the back or whatever. But I don't know. It just won't work for me. For me,
Hmm.
the probably the biggest reward is actually the sense of satisfaction that I get from accomplishing goals that I set for myself. Um, and I get it. I understand how it could work for some people, but we were raised in kind of a different generation where, you I wasn't rewarded for good things. My
Hmm.
parents did like, hey mom, I got a couple of A's on my report card. Good, you should have gotten A's on your report card. Oh,
Now get out of my face. No.
yeah, now get out of my face. I'm trying to sleep. I got to go to work tonight. So they had bigger
Yeah.
problems. So for me, since you're a product of your environment, rewards don't really work on me. I need that sense of satisfaction to
Hmm.
to
And
actually,
that's one of my steps I'm going to cover. Yep.
well, damn it, I exposed it. And it is a sense, you know, in a sense, it is a reward, but I don't look at it as a reward system. I just see the sense of satisfaction from accomplishing those goals. So I wanted to throw that in
Mm-hmm.
there before I go into that one that I brought up. But the one that I brought up was it's called living in the past. And what I mean by living in the past is it's simple. Everybody has this. Everybody's got a story, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Me, my story is I was in Iraq and I got blown up one too many times. Boom, traumatic brain injury. Sucks to be you. Welcome home. Here's some disability. You're basically gonna have to live the rest of your life with this problem. Okay, that sucks. What am I gonna do about it? Am I gonna about it? Am I gonna sit here and complain about it, or am I gonna use my time wisely? Because you've got two different mentalities here that can play into this. One is you've been given an opportunity. You've been given the gift of time. So I've got nothing but time on my hands. So what
Mm-hmm.
am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to go start a podcast and maybe I can help somebody else. Okay. The other side of it is I could look at it with that victim culture, the victim mentality, and I could say, well, there's nothing that I could put out that anybody would ever want to hear anyways, because who am I?
So I'm just going to stay in
Because
bed.
yeah, I'm just going to stay in bed because woe is me. My poor brain, or my poor lifestyle choices, or it's not my fault, or you hear all that crap, and that's always that victim mentality, right? So you are another example. You had back surgery a while back because you got jacked up in an explosion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you could very easily just lay in bed all day long feeling sorry for yourself, and well, you know what, yeah, well, my back's acting up today, or I just feel sick today, or I just don't feel like, my life is just not going the way that I wanted it to, or I'm having some pain in my back today, or blah 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 blah. Nobody wants to hear that crap in the first place. And this is the thing, this is like a big thing, right? This is something that will drive people away from you. So if you're seeking friendship, or you're seeking relationship, or anything like that, and you start talking about all this crap about how your life is going wrong, and the victim mentality, or oh, I got pregnant when I was young, and it's just so hard to be a single mom, or shut up. Nobody wants to hear it because everybody's got a story, and we get it. You think that your story is different, your story is unique, and your story is special. It's not. Nobody's story is special. And when you learn to get out of your own damn way and just shut up and work through it and move forward, instead of constantly turning around and looking backwards at what you've been through as if it's some kind of a curse, and you start looking at it and you're realizing, oh, this was me being taught something. I was given the gift of experience. I can do something amazing with this. That leads to, oh, I don't know, somebody starting a podcast, or somebody starting a YouTube channel, and maybe reaching out to a certain demographic that might need some kind of coaching or counseling, or whatever. But get out of your own damn way and quit looking at your past as if it's somehow the thing that holds you back. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, that past, that victimization for a season, can somehow turn tragedy into something amazing. So just quit like like life is so difficult. It's not. It really isn't. You have a unique set of skills, a unique gift. Do something great with it.
No, yeah, you hit it right on. So let's consider this bold idea. So my sixth step on anti-procrastination is going to be amazing. So one of the things I came up with is making it meaningful. Meaningful. So what is important about the task you being put off, that you've been putting off? So it could be something like, I could give you, a lot of people. Okay, I'm gonna rewind back here. With school and in the army, you remember the army used to give us busy work like detail.
Yep.
Let's sweep. Let's
Yep.
do this. College does the same thing, right? So college gives you, let's write a paper on this. It might not mean a lot because we all know what George, let's say it's a history class. Write me a paragraph on George Washington. It's nothing but busy work to keep you busy. You're paying us to teach you something. I'm just going to give you busy work to kind of I need time to come up with professors always need time to come up with something for like a
It's
final
it's
exam or whatever.
satisfaction of menial criteria.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of making it meaningful. What I mean by that is my first step is kind of like they're giving me this for a reason. Well, let's try to figure it out. It could be easy as like you could be accountable. Now that's making it meaningful. So man, if I can get this done, like your boss or whatever, it, you could be accountable. So you start making yourself like, man, that guy's accountable. I know he can get something done if I tell him to do it. So that's what I mean by meaningful.
So like a certain
Now,
level of trustworthiness.
yeah, exactly. Or it could be about anything. Just try to find something why to get this task done. It could be any task that you're procrastinating on. Just whatever the task is, try to find a meaningful solution of like, okay, there's a reason why I'm throwing this off, but what can I get out of it? I'm not talking about a kind of a reward system, kind of like let's try to find meaning into this task to get it done. So like it could be like as simple as, listeners, if you're not a church goer, try to find a meaningful reason to go to church. It could be like your significant other is the one that wants to go to church, but you're the one that's been making the family procrastinate. Well, now you got to start try thinking of the meaningful reason. Well, I want my wife to have a relationship with God, so I'm going to stop procrastinating and start going to church.
Okay. What church are you going
So
to?
no, not me.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not.
what I thought.
No, we haven't found a good one here, to be honest.
I mean, you live in the Dallas area. There should be a few. I don't want to go to these churches. They challenge me to think about stuff.
So step 2 on procrastination, it's always a task that's too difficult, especially when it comes to like taking too much time, or I don't know nothing about it, and that's why I keep pushing it to the right. So take it apart. If it's a book that you're told to read, like a 30-page book or a 40-page book, just take it apart. You don't have to read the whole thing. Like, as long as like, oh, you got the end of the week to read 40 pages. All right, cool. I got 7 days a week. Now, if I divide that, out of 40.
Well, likewise, I also probably should appreciate the subject matter in order to be able to.
And making it meaningful, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it
exactly. So
goes
that
hand
goes
in
back
hand
to
with
step
that.
one. I'm not
Yep.
going to read something that I don't care about.
Now,
Like
here's
Hillary's book.
Jeremy's little. This will help Jeremy with step 3. And Jeremy's the type of person and so am I. Is I need to write it down, right? I need to write down on my board what my goals are.
Long term.
So why don't you write? Yeah. So why don't you write down an intention statement to yourself? Now, if you can't get started on a task, write a statement declaring your specific goals. Write your intentions on like on a 3x5 card or on your blackboard, whiteboard, whatever. Or I like to write it on a card because I could carry it with me, and I find myself at a restaurant or waiting in line, I can be like, oh crap, I need to go read my book. And what if I brought it with me in my car? I could go back to my car, bring it back out while I'm waiting at the doctor's office or whatever. And there you go. You wrote yourself an intention statement, which is kind of like you reminding yourself. And if you can't listen to yourself, then I don't know what else could help you.
And it also serves as a great bookmark. So gives you motivation to carry the book around with you so you can absorb knowledge wherever you go. I always take a book with me when I go into the VA because you never know how actually long you're going to be there. And so I can always knock out at least a chapter out of a book by the time that I go in to see the doctor or whatever.
And it wasn't wasted time.
Yeah, it's not wasted time because otherwise you're sitting there scrolling through Facebook and you can't really, blast anything on, as far as like music or YouTube, you can't really blast that too loud in the waiting room because it's just rude for one. But you're kind of limited, and then you got to put your headphones in if you want to actually listen to anything of any kind of consistency on maybe YouTube or podcasts or whatever. It's possible to do, but then if they call your name and you're like, oh, is that me? So it's too distracting. So just carry a book with you when you go to the doc.
Yep. Now, step 4, tell everyone, use your support chain, announce your intentions to get your tasks done. Tell a friend, a spouse, a roommate, your parents, your children, even, and include anyone that will help you complete the task or remind you of it. Like, oh, sweetie, are you going to get this done? You remember you're supposed to mow the lawn. Oh, that's right. I told everyone I needed to get it done today. Let's go get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it has to
You
be
know?
somebody that's actually of consistency and accountability. You know, um,
Hmm.
I've said this in the past. I use my younger brother for consistency and accountability and whatnot, and typically in money discussions or anything to do with fitness. He was an athlete, and so he's all about that fitness side, and he's got the ambition and he's got a lot of drive as far as discipline goes. So I know that he's very, very accountable, and I can use him as my own kind of accountability partner. And almost nothing ever changes. I mean, he's always,
Hmm.
always, always strict and disciplined, and so he makes for the absolute best accountability partner that I could ever utilize. And it's all
Hmm.
done through text messaging. That's simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So step 5, I know Jeremy doesn't work for you, but is create a reward system. Create a reward that you'd be willing to withhold from yourself until the task is complete. Now, for instance, don't pick a movie as a reward if you're planning to go to the movie regardless if you finish the task or not. So pick something that you know that, hey, if I don't get this done, I'm not going to do this, and that is it.
Yeah. I'm going to spend 30 minutes raking leaves, and then I'm going to take a 2-hour break to watch Iron Man.
Yeah.
Probably didn't do that right. You might want to
Yeah.
reconsider the way you're doing that.
Yeah. And step 6, settle it now. Like, this helps me out a lot because um kind of helped me out when, you remember, I don't know if you were our earlier listeners, and I wasn't always kind of this financially off. I had debt in the army, because I was just stupid with money or whatever. So I always think of step 6 as settling it now. Settle with your bill collector, settle with your debt. Do it now. Don't wait until the last minute, because guess what? It accrued interest, right? So kind of try to the task that you're procrastinating on, treat it like that. If I don't get it done now, interest is going to start occurring. Kind of like more time is going to be taken to complete the task. So the minute you notice yourself procrastinating, dive into the task. Imagine yourself on a cold, like mountain lake, and you're ready just to dive in there, like like that pool. You're like, man, I'm gonna procrastinate about getting in the pool. I'm gonna let my legs sit in there first. No, just jump in there. That's the way you got to do that task. That's the way you got to do that homework that you keep pushing off, or that sales pitch that you need to start designing for your job. Um, because even getting in the water slowly is still torture.
Yeah. It's a whole lot easier to just jump right in.
So you're just prolonging the pain of adjustment to the cold water. So dive in there. It's less painful. Like just get it done.
We can draw a really awesome parallel here. Is a couple of years ago, I gave a talk to some guys about carrying baggage and how much it actually weighs you down. Consumer debt is one form of baggage. There's justifiable debt. There's always good debt and bad debt. And we don't have time to go into all that, but there's a certain level of consumer debt that's just it's toxic. It's poisonous to your lifestyle, and it's very difficult to get out of once you're in. And people get this idea like they're over their heads, or they get this idea that they can manage it all, but then they're over their heads, and it becomes very difficult to carry all of this consumer debt and somehow survive at the same time. And so they have to carry this around with them, and that just becomes part of life. And that's what I refer to as baggage. Same thing for your history, your past. If you're carrying those experiences with you, the bad relationship or the IEDs or the whatever, it's all these different factors that we always constantly carry as baggage. Now, something that I learned when we went up to New England was the one of the main goals of the guys who hike through the Appalachian Trail is to make sure that they carry as little weight as possible. And so the parallel there is your life can be much simpler and much easier if you just accomplish those little tasks and
That you
and
kept procrastinating on.
and then they're not weighing you down anymore, and all of a sudden it's one less thing that you have to worry about. And you can take a page out of the book from all the hikers, learning like, okay, this, like, or one great example was somebody actually rethought the process and used the baby stroller rather than carrying all the weight on his back. He lightened his load and put it in a baby stroller, and that's how he hiked, pushing a stroller everywhere he went, and it was genius.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that
So
his back and his legs probably thanked him for
thanked
it.
him for that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't a young man either.
No, he wasn't. But he
Yep.
knew the value of not carrying all that weight.
Yep. So to help with procrastination, and it goes hand in hand with time management. One thing that me and Jeremy preach over and over and over again is time is a commodity, and you need to start thinking that way, guys. So to help you with this, I kind of decided to share with you is that you need to start, creating what I call a fixed commitment calendar. My wife and I, we share ours together. So if she adds something in there, and it requires me, it's going to be taking time out of my day, then I can see it on my calendar. And so what we do now to help us even more when it comes to time management is we write down whatever's on our phone on our Blackboard calendar that we have here, and kind of prioritize things. And so we know, like, all right, what needs to get done first before this date or whatever. And so that's what we do when we write down your fixed. So write down your fixed commitments on this calendar. I'm sorry. So use your tools and your assets around you. And when I say assets, I meant like your phone, your iPad, your technology, your computer. Those are all assets and tools that you can use to help you manage your time wisely.
Assets in the time sense, not financial sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to go to
So
the financial sense, those are just depreciating assets.
mhm.
I saw this
Now,
stuff
one
on
thing
a.
that I've learned from Jeremy, and I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off,
you're
is
not.
with time management is scheduling equals motivation. Jeremy had a goal, like, I wanted to do 10 grand by this date. And that motivated him to put as much money and not procrastinate on putting as much money into to get this done as quickly as possible before this date. And that's what motivated him to get it done. That was his reward system, was his motivation, was like, all right, I need 10 grand into my emergency fund by this date. And by that alone, by him writing it down and writing it into his fixed commitment calendar, or just as just a written reminder, and he used all these steps that he utilized, not even knowing it, with anti-procrastination, is that he completed this task. And with that being said, it motivated him even more to be like, all right, if I got this done, I can do more.
Yeah, it's easy to do too because the whiteboard. I live and die by the whiteboard. If it's over there and I can see it on the whiteboard, that means that it's a goal, and I'm working towards it. And I make marks on that whiteboard at least once a month,
Yeah.
easily. I mean, because I'm always tracking. The big one is my rental property. I want that paid off because I want it to be 100% cash flow. I don't want I don't want to use these other methods that some of these other guys use, where they're like, yeah, I bought this house, and 30 years from now, that's going to be a great retirement when I've got all these houses and they're paying rent. And I'm like, yeah, that's all well and good. I get why you would do that, because inflation kind of does affect the dollar. But if I've got all these extra houses built up and paid off far in advance, then I can actually cash flow a lot more money than if I just wait 30 years on minimum payments.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use whichever method you'd like to. Some people call like the Burr method, whatever. Again, that's another podcast for another time. But I always think, like, what's the shortest path to prosperity? And I'm not just talking about wealth, because people demonize the term wealth, but when you consider the term wealth, in fact, let's talk about that for ever so briefly. Um, when you consider the term wealth, what comes to mind? Because to me, a lot of people, they own this mentality that, oh, wealth equals rich and rich equals bad. And you can't demonize people for building something great or something amazing or having a bigger portfolio than you, or because then you're falling into the comparison trap. And if you're going to sit in the comparison trap, you're always going to think about what you don't have. And when you think about all the things that you don't have, then you begin that procrastination process where you never do anything because, oh, well, I'll never get anywhere in the first place. And it becomes a strange, vicious circle where you're stuck thinking about other things that other people have and how it's not fair. And then you start voting for Democrats and you just give up.
Hmm.
I had to throw the Democrat thing in there.
Hmm.
Sorry.
So here's some tips for time management, guys. And what I wanted to share for my first tip, especially when it comes to time management, is difficult task first. Work on the most challenging task first when you have the most energy. Just like how Jeremy, before we even record, sometimes most of the time he hits the gym because that's to him is the most difficult task, is finding that motivation to go to that gym or just time allotted. I don't know the reasons why he does it, but
Because it makes me feel good.
yeah,
It
and
feels
it pays off in the
good
long
and I
run.
look good. And I don't, dude, it's all there. There's two factors to that. And I'm going to try and hurry up because I know we're running out of time, but there's two factors to this. One, you always feel good after a visit to the gym. Two, there's so much mental clarity that comes out of visiting a gym that it's all, I mean, sorry, I dropped something there. It's so difficult to conduct a podcast on a, even on a, like on 3 days a week, 4 days a week. You have to constantly come up with new ideas, fresh ideas. What are these things that we're going to talk about today? What have I discovered today? And if I go to the gym and I throw some lead around for an hour and 15 minutes, whatever, then I feel amazing. My mind is clear because nothing else really matters, right? Because
Hmm.
I've got one of the most difficult tasks already out of the way, and I leave refreshed and ready to tackle anything. Because I just deadlift 300 pounds. Well, then of course I'm gonna be okay to be able to go home and handle something small like cooking dinner for family, because that was not, I just deadlifted 300 freaking pounds. What's cooking dinner? That's nothing,
Hmm.
right? You can
Yep.
accomplish anything when you've got those goals set in place and you smash those types of goals.
Yep. So another tip that I know we're running out of time here. Another tip I would like to cover, especially for you listeners out there that work and have a job, is work ahead. To be in control of your own time, work ahead of your task. You can reduce stress levels. You know, uh, if you could complete the task before the boss told you your deadline, and also being a little ahead will provide a sense of confidence in what you're doing, especially at the workplace. And that actually goes hand to hand on using your daytime hours. That's another tip I want to share with you. Even the smallest slot of available time, use it to better yourself. you know, if you start thinking that time is commodity, I'm telling you, you're gonna find that extra minute in your fixed commitment calendar and be like, man, I could read a chapter on how to build a business because I do not want to work and make someone else rich, for the rest of my life. So I'm going to use my lunch break or my 10-minute break or whatever to can knock out these things, to read this book so I can learn how to run something like this one day, my own, wherever your job is. That's what you need to start saying to yourself.
Or get your ass out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning
Uh-huh.
or 5
And
o'clock.
that's when that reward system will come in, because that reward after all this, guys, if you start using your time wisely and your time management is great, is one day you will have to work for no one else but for yourself. Or you just be retired.
That's real satisfaction right there when you don't have to answer to anybody else.
Yep. And the one thing I want to tell you guys is the one thing that's going to stop you from doing this is your lack of self-regulation and self-respect to yourself. That's going to be completely, I'm going to be completely honest, because if you're failing to do, like, if you have goals, your end goal is, run a business, and you start noticing like, well, I need to go to bed at 8 because I wake up at 6. Like, you can sleep later. Start working, hard. You can sleep as much as you want when you start running your own business. So start utilizing your time wisely, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say.
Or likewise, if you're a sleep junkie, you probably need to make some other adjustments in life. Diet would make a huge change for most people. you'd be surprised how much energy you can actually draw out of just changing your diet and getting a little bit of exercise. And even if it's just walking for 15 or 20 minutes just to get the heart rate going, all those things will change all the patterns in your life. And you'll start, dude, you'll really appreciate a power nap in the middle of the day if you can get one. I don't do that
Yeah.
anymore. I don't need it. But likewise, every morning I'm up 6 o'clock, got stuff to do.
hmm And if you work behind the desk, guys, and you're like, oh, I can't go to school because I'm working or whatever, there's tools and assets out there, again, to help you. Google Docs. Save your homework on Google Docs. And when you're at your work, log into your Google Docs, knock out a paragraph, and you're doing your lunchtime.
And I would also argue that if you're using the excuse that you have to work full time so you can't better yourself another, you're just fooling yourself. That's complete garbage. Just do it.
That's the victim mentality, procrastination right there.
Just get up and do it. And Jacob, do you have any other points?
No, that's it, sir.
All right. So yeah, one other really relevant tip. You get into this funk, right? You get into your own head and you start pushing things into like this. You're projecting what could be the risk, the outcome. What if I fail? Or what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not satisfactory enough? You got to get rid of all that crap. Those ideas, they should be non-existent, first of all, because that's just poor thinking. And if you allow those types of things to overrule your own thought process and your own goals and your own ambitions, then don't even bother writing the goals or the ambitions down in the first place, because it's going to be completely fruitless. It's going to be completely pointless unless you can get your own thought process flowing in a positive direction. And the best way that I've ever discovered that anybody can do anything to get their mindset flowing in a positive direction is first just get up, quit making excuses, and do some freaking push-ups.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good day.
Later.